Hello and welcome to another episode of the Monday Night Wars. We are live with WCW in the Salem Civic Center in Salem, Virginia. We got Eric Bischoff, we got Bobby Heenan, we got Steve McMichael on the commentary table. With me, as always, on our commentary table is Joseph the Brain Rojas. Joseph, how are you doing?
I'm very sorry, Bobby, that he absolutely blasphemed right now by calling me the brain. But I'm doing great, Scott. How about you? Did you have a good Thanksgiving?
It was wonderful. Thank you for asking. But let's get into it, Joseph. We got a match. Again, Johnny V. Bad, Diamond Dallas Page for the WCW World Television Championship. And for people who subscribe to our Patreon, of which are none of you, but you may be asking yourself, those Patreon subscribers, hey, I just listened to your fantastic podcast on World War III. Didn't these guys just wrestle this very match there? You are right, fair Patreon listener. They did wrestle last night at World War III. But we're going to do it again because we liked it, and we're going to like it again. Of note, Paige gives Kimberly some flowers. They're on the rocks. She's now with Johnny B. Bad, but DDP's going to win her back. He's going to give her some flowers. And he uses that opportunity to sucker punch Johnny B. Bad in the process. Kimberly finds a chain in those flowers, and DDP calls for it. He wants her to give him the chain. She's conflicted. What to do? Who to give it to? She throws it into the ring, but it slides past DDP. Bad gets it. He knocks DDP out for the win. Johnny B. Bad defeats Diamond Dallas Page to retain the WCW World Television Championship. It's a 2-minute, 10-second match. After the match, because it's directly related, Kimberly's evasive about who she meant to throw it to. All that matters is that Bad won, she says. Whew, trouble in paradise, Joseph. What do you think about this?
When you said it was 2 minutes and however many seconds, that makes it sound like this is a throwaway. But you do have to realize when you're kind of listening to these, they got an hour to work with. That's what they got. And I love every bit of 2 minutes and seconds that this was. I don't remember what the seconds were, but it was fantastic. I thought this was
10.
great. And 10 seconds, all 10 of those seconds were, it's not an A. It's going to get a B from me. But this to me is a very good way to continue a storyline, right? You've had Diamond Dallas Page get his, let's say, comeuppance at the pay-per-view the previous night. And now he's back and he's not going away. And I like this because number one, they got great chemistry. And I like watching this match. I think it's fun. It was a very fun, very quick match, but very fun. But on top of that, it's the next page almost in their story. And I like that. I like if you're going to continue a storyline, give me a reason to be invested. And the reason is now, is he trying to win back Kimberly? Is Kimberly, does she still have an old flame for DDP? Is she good? Is she bad? Because who did she throw the chain to? Did she throw it to DDP and it just went past him and went to JBB? We don't know, but it's done very well. And I enjoyed it. It gets a B for me. I thought it was fantastic. And honestly, I don't know how much longer this is going to go on, but I'm completely okay with it for the time being.
Some might even say it's the next Diamond Dallas Page.
I don't understand.
Well, turning the page on that joke, I agree. Like I said, it's a pretty short match. It's 2 minutes, 10 seconds, but you're right. It's fun. We like these guys. We like these guys going at it. It's furthering a storyline. We actually like this storyline. You know, they're treating Kimberly. You know, Kimberly is very pretty. I think that goes without saying. We can say that. You know, you fair listener, do not see her. I know some folks are watching along with us, so you do see her, but she's very pretty. And I feel like they're actually being fairly respectful with her as a character. So I'm okay with this. We'll talk about other women tonight that are in love plots that I don't like. No, wait, it's not tonight. It's next week. I'm getting all my weeks confused. ladies and gentlemen, pulling back the curtain, we're doing like 4 of these in a row. So my brain is going to just start mixing them all together. But we'll get to that. But let's keep going with tonight, because after that, we got Mean Gene interviewing our favorites, Kevin Sullivan and Jimmy Hart. Ugh. Sullivan is not happy that Lex and Sting are still friends, and he wants Jimmy Hart to fix that. Jimmy says he's got a plan, and that's pretty much it, Joseph. Anything more you want to add, or you just want to keep rolling?
Scott, I think you'll be surprised to hear that I hated every moment of this.
Shocked.
What is going on? Why are we doing this? This is a real question. Why are we doing this, Scott? Why are we doing this?
You just want to cut this one? You just want to cut right here and just be done?
No, because I love it. I love the fact that we're putting ourselves through this, some of these horrible segments, because we've said it before, but this really is just kind of like the fun thing for us to do that we enjoy. But sometimes there's some downsides, and this is one of them. He doesn't like, Taskmaster specifically does not like that Lex is running around with Sting, which I think is a fair point. I think that's a very good plot point. And he questions Jimmy Hart's intelligence. Says basically that he's like the dumbest person he's ever met. I think he even says that. And says, how can you let this happen? You're supposed to be managing Lex. How are you letting Sting invade? Because to them, Sting's a good guy. And I think it's a very good question and a very good plot point. And how does Jimmy Hart solve this? How does he solve this conundrum? He says that he has a plan. At which point, Taskmaster says, wait. Say that again. And he says, I have a plan. And he goes, you have a plan. Ha, 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 ha. Okay, we're good. And that's it. That's the end of the segment. That was it.
Problem solved.
Let's move on to the next one, because I'm depressed just even talking about it.
Yeah, I'm not going to add to that because it was terrible. I didn't like it. It's not good. Dungeon of Doom, overstay their welcome. Again, I don't know. I'm going to say it for 100 more years, because they stick around for like 1,000 more years, but it needs to stop. Like, I'm over it. We were okay with them at first. And
so presumably for the next 900 after that 100, you're okay with it.
Yeah, it's going to come back around.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. Going to get its second win. It's going to get its second win. We didn't hate them at first. We were like, we get it. It serves a purpose. We get it. It's fine. It's overstayed its welcome. It's stale. We need to move on. And let's move on, because we got another match. We got Akira Hokuto and Bull Nakano versus Cutie Suzuki and Mayumi Ozaki. And you, fair Patreon listener, may again be saying to yourself, didn't we just watch this match on World War III? And didn't I hear you talk about this match on your award-winning Patreon account? It doesn't have any awards. Yes.
We give it awards.
Yeah. We give it a pat on the back, my friends. Yes, fair listener, this is the second match of the night that is a repeat of World War III. Ultimately, though, Akira Hokuto and Bull Nakano win. I'm going to stop it there because I keep butchering their names, and Joseph's going to have to edit this a bunch of times. I'm just going to stop with the names. They won. They're the winners. Joseph, what do you think?
Well, I'm thinking about the fact that WCW is costing me and you subscribers, because why listen to our Patreon when apparently you get the exact same match the next night and you can just listen to it for free?
Two of the same matches.
Yes, two. At least the other one had it, like they continued the next Diamond Dallas page of their story. Brought it back. At least they did that in the previous one. In this one, they don't. And what actually really sucks is I'm pretty positive that Bull Nakano actually hurts herself. I think she goes out of the ring and she hurts her knee somehow, and she can barely move after. I mean, really struggles. And even though she's a bigger lady, she's very, very athletic. It's one of the things she's known for in her wrestling career. And she can barely move after a certain moment. She's just kind of ginger on it. She takes as few steps as she can. There's a moment where she's actually like using the ropes to help her get back up. It's really, really unfortunate. I think it's just a freak accident. Nobody did anything unsafe or tried to do anything to hurt her. It just kind of happens. And it basically results in essentially the same outcome. I think the pin is from the other member, Hokuto, this time. But it's the same match. It's the same outcome. Same team wins. It gets a C. I gave it a B- on our Patreon, it gets a C for me this time because now not only are we seeing the same match twice, but again, and I've ranted about this, who in the audience cares about this match because they don't know who any of these people are. I'm not saying that's a negative towards these wrestlers. A lot of wrestling fans nowadays will know who these individuals are, but in 1995, they just simply did not. They did not have the internet the way that we do now, or have it used excessively the way we do now. Can't just go up on YouTube and just look up these people. YouTube wasn't invented until like 2006. There's no way. So it's just kind of, how do you get invested into this? The crowd's dead for it again. It's a finely wrestled match, but it just gets a C for me because it's doing nothing for the company.
All four of these wrestlers, famous, good technical wrestlers in Japan, but no one at the Salem Civic Center in Salem, Virginia on November 27th, 1995 knows that. And you can tell. Yeah, it's fine. It's a fine match. Yeah, I think there's an injury, which is unfortunate, especially for the crowd who's not really into it. But we're doing it again. But to keep the high notes coming, Joseph, we got a Hulk Hogan match. A Hulk Hogan versus Hugh Morris match. It's 3 minutes, 41 seconds, and you'll be shocked to discover that Hulk Hogan wins. It's essentially a squash match. I don't know if it technically meets the parameters of a squash match at almost 4 minutes, but it's Hulk Hogan. Of note, though, the important thing here is that during the match, Bischoff tells us that the WCW Executive Committee, whoever that is, has decided and declared that the Macho Man Randy Savage is the WCW World Champion, even though Hogan went under the ropes at World War III. Joseph, you want to talk about the match? And I think probably for our listeners, we need to explain this a little bit more.
Which part do we need to explain?
The what the hell, the why, what's the issue here? The WCW title. I mean, the Hulk Hogan Hugh Morris match, squash match. I don't even know if we need to go into much detail.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure we're on the same page. Okay. I'll real briefly talk about the match because it is presented on TV, so we got to talk about it. It gets a D+ for me. Hugh, Scott, you're gonna love this. You're gonna love this joke. Watch, here it comes. Okay. Hugh Morris's character is supposed to be crazy. He is crazy. Crazy bad. Got him.
So good.
Yeah, it's fantastic. That joke is basically this match. It does nothing. It's just whatever. Now, as far as the championship dilemma, essentially what happened on World War III is that it ended in Macho Man winning, to his eyes, cleanly. But what he did not know was that Hulk Hogan had actually gone underneath the ropes, not over the ropes, and so therefore should not have been counted as eliminated. But instead, he did get eliminated. So Hogan naturally is upset about this, and so he complained about it for a good long while at the end of the pay-per-view, and it took a long time, and I wish that it had ended sooner. I might have actually fast forwarded most of that segment. That's where we're at. That's where we're picking up. It's not great. You joked, who are these, board of executives? I actually like the idea. I think it's cool because you kind of have this almost faceless, faction that just kind of decrees things. I think it's interesting, but overall, it's not the best thing that could be happening for Macho Man at this moment, or WCW for that matter.
Yeah, the executive committee certainly adds some flavor because I think, as far as we know, at this point, Eric Bischoff is still just an announcer, right? Like, I don't think he's in. I mean, obviously, he's in charge. He's running things. We know that. But to the fans, I don't think that's true yet, right? He's still just on the announce table.
No, they've definitely had, like, he's been at all the press conferences when they got Hogan and when they got Mach, and he's done all those things. So he's kind of shown as not the owner, but the guy where the buck almost stops. But they allude that there's somebody above him that really gets to call the show, and I kind of like that.
Ted Turner corporate, yeah. There's TNT or TBS or whomever that are really calling the shots, which is probably somewhat true. And it becomes more true as their ratings start slipping in a couple of years. Moving on from that, because it plays directly into this announcement that the executive committee has declared that Randy Savage is the WCW World Champion. Mean Gene interviews Savage, but Hulk Hogan comes out to complain again. He has them put the footage from last night, World War III, on the video scope. But it cuts out before we get the proof. The Giant attacks. Savage gets choke slammed. Sting comes out to help. He gets whooped for his help. Hogan hits the Giant with a chair, and he keeps hitting him with the chair. Softest chair shots I've ever seen. Until Giant retreats. Hogan also hits referee Randy Anderson, who refereed the World War III match, which I found kind of interesting. Joseph, what do you think about this?
So first off, Mach is wearing not only my favorite outfit, which I've talked about before, the red and white, but he's added a red shirt underneath, and it says Macho Man on it in glittery silver. It gets an A++. It is so gorgeous. Sting, on the other hand, he's wearing black and orange, but with yellow boots. And it kind of clashes. Doesn't really work. I'm going to give that a D. Sorry, Stinger. As far as the segment goes, Mach gets choke slammed on the concrete, and it's like, isn't this dude hurt enough? Like, he's already injured, and you're going to put him through all of the most brutal scenarios. Like, no one else is taking these bumps. Hogan's not taking them. Sting's not taking them, but someone's got to. So Mach is just being the MVP right now and taking them. And then, like you said the softest chair shots, and I will say the safest chair shots. I'm gonna give Hogan a little bit of props. You take a Hogan chair shot, and it's gonna be like a love tap. It's gonna be like a feather brushed up on your back. And you know what? Hogan ain't giving anybody CTE with them chair shots, and I appreciate that, even though they look horrible on camera.
Yeah, I guess you do have to give credit where credit is deserved. And Hogan is incredibly safe with his chair shots, to the point where they don't look great on TV. But I kind of respect that he cares enough about the safety of the other person that he just doesn't lay into them.
Yeah, he seems like he wrestles in general a pretty safe match, which I I got to give credit for. You're putting your life in your opponent's hands, and they are with you. So if you wrestle a safe match, even if you're not the most entertaining wrestler, I got to give you props for that. That being said, the segment I think is fine. I'm trying to make my C's mean that it's fine, it's okay, and we can move on. That's how I felt about this. It was okay. Didn't upset me. Didn't make me super happy to watch. Didn't make me super mad to watch. I just, okay, this is a segment, and we're moving on to the next one. So I got a C for me.
After that, the commentary table is speculating. Despite the fact that Sting came out to help Hogan and Savage, they're wondering if he's with the Dungeon of Doom again for some reason. We did this before when Lex, with Lex and Sting, and are they or aren't they? Lex is in the Dungeon of Doom. Sting is his friend. Is Sting in the dungeon? We've done this before. I thought it kind of ended, but apparently we're doing it again. I don't really understand it at this point, but there it is. Joseph, do you have thoughts? Do you disagree with me? Do you like this? Is he or isn't he Angle again?
It's going to go through like ebbs and flows. Like sometimes I like it and sometimes I don't. Right here, I don't like it because they've done everything to say otherwise. So I don't like it. But then in a few weeks, they're going to be doing some interesting stuff that makes me go, oh, it's kind of interesting again. So ask me that question again next week and we'll see where we're at.
Well, here's a twist because Lex and Sting are in a match together. They are tag teaming against the Four Horsemen, Arn Anderson and Brian Pillman. Lex doesn't come out right away. Is Jimmy Hart having an effect on him? Bischoff keeps wondering if Lex is really Sting's friend, even though the match seems pretty straightforward. And we were just questioning whether or not Sting is secretly in cahoots with Lex and the dungeon. I'm getting mixed signals here. Ultimately, though, Lex and Sting defeat the Horsemen. 5-minute, 36-second match. After the bell, the Horsemen attack Sting and Luger. Hogan makes a save that gets fans to cheer. People like it. Hogan wants a piece of Luger, though, after the Horsemen flee. Hogan wants to fight everybody, and Sting tells him to back off. and Luger goes back to the locker room. Man, there's some storytelling there, Joseph. What do you think?
I think the match itself is really fun. I think this is a very good way to close out Nitro. I think Nitro started off well. And I think it ended very well. The match is going to get a B for me. It's not the best thing I've ever seen, but I think for a show, like for an a Monday Nitro episode, that's pretty good. I think it does a really good job of just some of the character work. Pillman really kills it in this. I mean, there's the moment where he distracts Lex away from the rope so Sting can't make a tag, which I thought was really nice. The commentator calling it into question makes it even better, like pointing out what's going on and questioning whether or not Lex is actually on his side because he's left the corner. That makes it even better, I think. It's just a lot of fun. Flair interferes and attacks Luger. That's a lot of fun because you're getting more of the Flair Sting angle, which is never going to die, and it never should. Never should. It's fantastic. Also, I will say this. Flair's sweater brings me to an interesting point, which is that 90s sweaters are the best sweaters.
That's an interesting take, man. That's an interesting take.
Eventually, Sting and Hogan shake hands. So they are apparently, again, best friends after, I guess, they weren't best friends, but they are best friends. We don't know. Who knows? Who knows what's going on? It's fine. I think the segment's really good. It gets a B overall.
Good match. I think good, well-wrestled match. Sting and Arn and Brian Pillman, all good wrestlers. Lex is an okay wrestler, but he serves his purpose here. He does just fine. The fight at the end is interesting because, Hogan comes in and makes the save, but he's doesn't like Luger. Sting likes Luger. It's adding to this confusion. Is he or isn't he? I don't know. But that pretty much ends it for us that night. Other than that, Bischoff tells us that they got a big announcement about Starrcade, but you have to tune in Saturday night to find out what it is, which I think is ridiculous because Nitro is their flagship program. They shouldn't be having big announcements on Saturday night, but it is what it is. And we're out. But we aren't out, Joseph. We are not done because we still got Raw to talk about. Monday Night Raw, November 27th, 1995, Richmond Coliseum, and you guessed it, Richmond, Virginia. The show starts with a video package of Shawn Michaels, and we see his collapse that he had last week. He collapsed in his match with Owen Hart. Apparently, he's got some lingering issues from the attack by those thugs in Syracuse several weeks ago. It's very concerning. I think Vince even calls it stark. Joseph, what did you think about this stark video package?
I think it's great. I think Vince pushing it is really good. There's not much to say about it. I talked about how much I enjoyed it last week. They have to continue now because they've already kind of dug their heels in with it, and I think they're doing so in a very good format. And I'm ready to see where it goes.
Well, it goes into a match. Ahmed Johnson and Rad Radford. Sorry to disappoint you there. Well, let's get into it.
I meant in general, like over the next few weeks, where it goes.
Oh, well, it goes into an Ahmed Johnson and Rad Radford.
Okay, fair enough.
So we got Ahmed Johnson. We got Rad Radford. It's 2 minutes, 46 seconds. I think it goes without saying. It's a squash match. Bob Backlund is campaigning again. Remember, he's running for president. And Vince likes this angle for some reason because we keep doing it. Of note, though, we are told that Ahmed Johnson and Dean Douglas are facing off at In Your House. Joseph, do you want to talk about the match, or should we just get into the aftermath of the match?
I honestly am just going to package it all together. The match is pretty simple. It's a squash match. The interesting note for Rad Radford is they're kind of giving him a storyline thing that I think I've talked about this a few weeks ago, that he wants to be a body Donna. They play into that as well here. I don't think it's going to go anywhere, but hey, at least you've gone back to it a little bit. The match is very simple. Ahmed Johnson delivers a pretty nice spine buster, and you know that I like a good spine buster, Scott.
Boy, do you.
But I will say, from week to week, you never know which one you're going to get from Ahmed Johnson, but I will keep you listeners posted. That being said, it goes right into the post-match thing. Jerry Lawler interviews Ahmed Johnson. I have no earthly idea what he says. Ahmed Johnson is just like I don't know what he's saying. And I've been trying. Like, I've really been trying. I have no idea. Then Dean Douglas comes out and Ahmed Johnson challenges him. And then Dean gets pulled away by the refs. And it's kind of a cluster. I think like them being in a thing together is fine. But I just don't, this whole thing is really difficult to pay attention to what's going on. So I'm going to give it a C because it is progressing some sort of story, but I'm just not really sure what that story is.
There's a couple of things you're going to be surprised here. There's a couple of things I actually like about this segment. You're right. Ahmed Johnson is usually unintelligible. This is another example of that. But Lawler tells him that, Dean Douglas is going to teach him a lesson because Dean Douglas is a professor, So, okay, teach him a lesson. Ahmed doesn't like that. That gets him upset. He rambles for a while. Dean Douglas comes out and he actually puts Ahmed over a bit. He says Ahmed has everything that one needs to be a star, but he still needs to learn something in the classroom. And he points to the ring. And I like that. Ahmed gets in the ring and tells Dean that the class is in session. School has started and the fans are loving this. They want the match. Dean Douglas hesitates. As you mentioned, the refs break it up, but that was pretty exciting. I actually didn't hate it. I liked it. Like you said, Ahmed Johnson, not great on the mic. He needs some work. We actually just got to a point in our watching, which is like a year. We're like a year ahead in our watching together, where Ahmed Johnson actually slows it down and gives a pretty good promo. We're not there yet. He is not good on the mic. He needs work. But I thought that Lawler and Dean Douglas together made this bearable. I told the story. I'm okay with it. Vince, interestingly, though, notes that Dean Douglas had some trouble with Savio Vega in Philadelphia over the weekend. And I looked into this a little bit because I wasn't really sure what was going on. And maybe you have more on this. But apparently Dean Douglas is actually injured. And that's going to play into events coming up. I don't know if you have more on that or you want to move on. But
no, I've got nothing else on that right now.
Okay. So apparently, there's reference to this. I was like, what is he talking about? Apparently, Dean Douglas suffers a legitimate injury, which is going to play into some backstage drama, but also some in-ring drama. So stay tuned, fans. Very exciting. What's more exciting, though, is Todd Pettingill hyping their World Tour Day Force house shows, Joseph. How exciting. And back at the commentary table, we got Twix. Jerry Lawler doing some product placement for Twix. We love Twix. Then we have a video on Sean and how the injuries he sustained from the attack by those thugs in Syracuse caught up with him again. We have another one of them, but it's good. What do you think, Joseph?
I actually really like this. I think this segment does a good job. It's not the most amazing thing I've seen on Raw, but it's continuing what they're supposed to be doing. They do a lot of like explaining how kind of each step of the way where his injury progressed. And I kind of realized while I was watching this that WWF did this a lot. I don't know if they still do. I don't watch the product too much. I just kind of catch some of the pay-per-views. They do this a lot where they'll go like, on this day, this happened. And you could see on this, in this move right here, his head took a hit. And then again, the following week, he took a hit right here. And it's usually not true. Like, that's not usually what happened, but they do a really good job of making it convincing. Like, okay, that's where he got hurt. And I think they do a really good job of it. It's just interesting. I like that Michaels is saying that he's planning to return and they're going to kind of continue that storyline. Get to see, for me, it's not the most amazing thing I've ever seen, but I enjoyed it.
It's telling a story, and Sean is their biggest performer, I think, without a doubt, right? I think he's their number one guy right now. I mean, certainly Bret Hart, Diesel, Razor Ramon are up there. And so if your guy's going to be out for a while, which is what they're doing here, you got to keep him in the conversation. And they're doing that. And I think they're doing it really well. And they're actually adding some emotion to it. He's their baby face, and you want him to come back and win it, I think it was good. I think the whole thing was good. What I don't think is good is the next match, and I'll tell you why, Joseph. We got Aja Kong. We got Tomoko Watanabe. We've got Alundra Blaze and Kyoko Inouye?
Inoue.
I believe that's right. Inouye? We'll clean it up in post. Don't worry about it. Ultimately, Aja Kong and Tomoko Watanabe win the match. But more importantly, the announce table seems to be interested in just about everything else but this match. It's a ladies' match. That should be clear from Alundra Blaze, but it's a women's match. The announce table seems to be more concerned with just about everything else. We talk about Mr. Perfect being on America Online. There's a conversation about Princess Diana for some reason, and Jerry makes light of bulimia. Joseph, what are your thoughts on this?
Whew. So this is kind of a rematch from their Survivor Series match, which was obviously 4-on-4. This is 2-on-2, but the same women are on both sides. The match itself, if you played this match on mute, it's fine. Gets a B for me. It's a good match. King again, Jerry the King Lawler again has to attack Alundra Blaze. And my only sum up is that he's a bag of shit. And I assume that's why he does it. That's the only takeaway I can get from this point. Interestingly enough, this won't be his worst commentary in the next few weeks. That being said, Alundra Blaze has a lot of things I love in this match. I love watching Alundra Blaze matches. Again, probably if you mute them, you can enjoy them a lot more. But she's a very good wrestler. She does the Ric Flair over the rope thing that he does, where like you throw him into the corner and he does that kind of like flip over the rope. She does that, and it looks so good.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah. And she ends up hitting a really nice enziguri. I'm a huge fan of the enziguri. It's probably one of the more simpler moves, but I think when done really well, it just looks so nice. Owen Hart does it a lot, and I love when he does it. She hits multiple diving front drop kicks, but she misses the third, which is kind of sets her up for the L. I will say, though, Inoue gets a lot of time to shine in this match. She actually gets to kind of roam free and do a lot of things that we really didn't get to see her do in Survivor Series. And I think it looks very impressive. Ultimately, though, Aja Kong just beats the hell out of everybody. Like, she just comes in and clears house. And that's kind of what should happen. This is very clearly setting up for a Aja Kong versus Alundra Blaze women's championship match. To me, that's what it's setting up for. It's never going to be seen, though. It's never going to happen. This is late November. We've only got a few more weeks before, unfortunately, Alundra Blaze will be released from the WWF. And this is unfortunately going to go nowhere. But right now, in this moment, I'm enjoying it. Just the match, none of the commentary.
Good match. Commentary absolutely ruins it. Like I said, not only do you have Jerry Lawler just saying horribly inappropriate things, but they're just not into it, right? They're talking about everything but the match, and it really distracts from it. It really disappointed me because these are all good wrestlers and they wrestle a good match, and you wouldn't know it based on the commentary. So overall, I was disappointed by the whole thing. And, and that's just the way it is. And that's the way it's going to be for quite some time with these women's matches. Moving on, though, we get a recap from Survivor Series. We were shown when Diesel attacked Bret Hart, how he lost the title, and how he isn't going to be the company man anymore. That leads into a brother love show with guest Bret Hart. And Joseph, in my notes here, I don't want to talk about this. Kick it to Joseph. Joseph, what are your thoughts?
Okay, so I don't like Brother Love. This is not a dig at Bruce Pritchard. It's not even a dig at the Brother Love character. I think it's the presentation more than anything. He's supposed to be annoying. So he's supposed to be that way. I'm fine with that. It's really hard for me to hear what he's saying in general. I really struggle like taking notes, actually hearing what he's saying and what he's bringing up. I do have some of the information here, but in general, it's hard for me to understand, mostly because not only is he doing an over-the-top character, which I think from a character standpoint is quite good. It's annoying. It's ludicrous. I don't enjoy it, but that's the point of it. But the problem is they play his music the entire time. And the music is just about as loud as he is. So it's really hard to hear anything he's saying. It's also super, super distracting. Finally, Bret Hart comes out. Brother Love seems to be saying that Bret Hart has multiple people coming after him. He lists off a few. He brings up Diesel and he brings up British Bulldog. And I think he brings up Undertaker, potentially Owen Hart. I think he even says King Mabel. He mentions a few people. And I think the idea is that what they're trying to do is establish that it's kind of Bret Hart versus the world at this point. And I think we're going to see that a little bit more over the next few weeks. That idea is really sound. I've been critical of Bret Hart. I've especially been critical of the booking of Bret Hart, which is not Bret Hart's fault in 1995. But I think the idea of Bret Hart versus the world, it doesn't even have to be Bret Hart. You could take Bret Hart out and put anybody in there. And it's a good idea. It's a really good idea for pretty much anybody. It's executed pretty poorly here because every time that Brother Love says something, Bret Hart brings up something different. Like he doesn't continue the thought. It's like they didn't get together and compare notes. It's just really disjointed. It just doesn't really work. There is one thing that I found actually quite humorous. And again, it's because Brother Love is supposed to be such an annoying character, but he keeps asking Bret a question and he'll move the mic over to Bret. And right when Bret's about to answer, he'll pull the mic away and ask another question and he did that for like a solid 3 or 4 goes. And I thought that was actually pretty good. And then out of nowhere, Bob Backlund comes out and hits the chicken wing crossface on Bret Hart. And that kind of closes out the segment. And it gets a D for me. And I'm giving it a D and not an F because I think everybody tried. It just wasn't good.
I'm going to give it an F.
You do what you got to do.
I don't like Brother Love. I don't want to see Brother Love. I want nothing to do with Brother Love. I'm done with this segment. Up next, we have a match. Hunter Hearst.
God damn. Okay, just moving.
I hate the character. He's hard to understand. His face is bright pink. I guess he's kind of like an evangelist preacher or something.
Yeah.
It's like nails on a it's like, fingernails on a chalkboard to me. Oh my God. It's the worst thing going on right now. And that says something. That says something at this point in WWF. Let's get to the match. Because we have a doozy of a match. We got Hunter Hearst Helmsley versus John Crystal. Of note, we go split screen to Henry O. Godwin's farm. He's got a pig farm, apparently. We're hyping the hog pen match that they're gonna have it in your house. Vince tells us that they are, quote, signed on for a series, end quote, of slot matches. Be still my heart. Vince also tells us that Bret was not happy with the outcome of the Brother Love show, and he stormed to the back during the commercial break. And Vince also plugs the Undertaker versus Kama match later on tonight. Hunter Hearst Helmsley, you might be shocked to discover, defeats John Crystal. It's a 2-minute, 21-second match. Joseph, break it down for me.
It's crazy to me that this match was 2 minutes, 21 seconds. Unless I'm mistaken, the first match, DDP versus Johnny B. Bad on Nitro, was 2 minutes and 10 seconds.
Correct.
And in this 2 minutes, 21 seconds, it doesn't tell a tenth of the story that was told in the 2 minutes and 10-second match. It's not, I wouldn't say it's bad, but you can just see the difference in quality. Like, I think this is a great microcosm of what's going on. Those two matches. This does nothing for me. It gets a C. It's not horrible. I didn't watch it and like roll my eyes and groan. It's just, there's nothing going on here. I'm ready to move on.
It was wrestled fine enough. It serves its purpose. It's a squash match for Hunter Hearst Helmsley. But you're right. That's it. That's all it is. There's no story. There's nothing to it. Really the vignettes was the story, right? The Henry O. Godwin farm vignette, and that they're signed on for a series of these matches. That's really the only purpose this match serves, is to hype in your house. That's why this match exists. And that's pretty much it. That's all we got going on. Razor Ramon and Marty Jannetty are going to face off against Psycho Sid and 123 Kid in your house. We're hyping in your house. It's big. It's coming up. After that, though, we go to Jim Cornette and Owen Hart. And Owen issues an open challenge for In Your House. He says he will hospitalize anyone that tries to take him on, just like he did Shawn Michaels. Joseph, what'd you think about this segment?
I think Owen taking credit for the hospitalization is a very good move. which I think is probably surprising to some people because it is a bit in poor taste. But I think it's a good move. I'm sure it was probably talked about. I'm sure it was discussed. It's fine. You're the heel. I'm okay with it. I put him in the hospital. I think that's great. I will say, though, this is probably the weakest segment I've seen from Jim Cornette and Owen Hart since we started this podcast. I gave it a C+. It's nothing amazing, though. It's nothing that really like made me happy. It didn't make me go, we've had some bad segments, but here we go. Here we finally have, the two guys I'd love to see and love to hear, which I would, but they just did nothing to make me feel like I got my palate cleansed. So it's just, it exists.
It's not a good night for WWF when Jim Cornette and Owen Hart can't even save it.
Yeah.
And that's where we're at. It wasn't their best. It was fine. I mean, as far as it goes for the night, it's probably one of the better promos, but that's not saying a whole lot. It's not a great night for WWF. This was not their best promo. Yeah, like you said, I do like that Owen is taking credit for the hospitalization because, when it happened the previous night, Owen actually looked genuinely concerned, right? He expressed some concern. He was worried about it. And now they realize, it's better if you take credit for it. That's better. So they've clearly been workshopping this. And I like it. I think it's a good angle. I put people in the hospital. I'm the bad guy. I'm the, the technical, the best there was, the best there is, the best there ever will be. And I put people in the hospital. That's what he is. And I think it works. He's a Canadian crippler, as it were. How about that?
Whoa.
Big. We'll get there, ladies and gentlemen. But that brings us to our main event. Had to hype it because it's kind of been a dull night for WWF. Wanted to get people a little pumped. See if you're dozing off, snoozing during this podcast. I just woke you up. I told you previously that it was going to be Undertaker versus Kama. But wait. Kama comes out in crutches. Ted DiBiase's with him. DiBiase tells us that Kama is injured and he can't wrestle tonight. So Ted DiBiase has purchased the services of Sir Mo, King Mabel's lackey, which is very interesting because, as we know, King Mabel is who gave Undertaker his quote-unquote crushed face. Vince thinks something's up. As they're making their entrances, we get hype for next week. Dean Douglas and Razor Ramon are going to go at it. But to the match itself, we got Undertaker and Sir Mo. Of note, Vince talks pretty much the whole time about how he thinks this is a trap. DiBiase and Kama try to help Mo, but the Undertaker clears them out, and Undertaker wins it. But Vince is right. The trap has been set. After the match, Mabel comes out to the ring and tries to steal the Undertaker's urn, or at least what's left of it. Undertaker snatches it first. Then Yokozuna comes out for some reason, and there's a stare down. Undertaker gives Paul Bearer the urn, but Mabel gets it from him and runs away with it. And Undertaker gives chase by briskly walking, as only Taker can do. Joseph, what did you think about this grand finale for the night?
So the storyline, I believe, is, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is that the $1 Million Corporation stole Undertaker's urn, melted it down, and turned it into Kama's necklace. Correct?
Yes, I believe that is the story.
Okay. When did this happen? Because I have poured through our notes. I don't remember this happening at any point.
It happened when they said it happened.
Okay. That's what I thought.
When it happened. It might have happened at some house show or on a weekend show. I don't know. It did not happen on Raw.
Yeah, I even searched it while you were talking. I was looking it up on the internet, like, hey, did I miss this? Like, is this like, because I'd feel a little bad if I missed it, right? And I'm looking it up and I can't find it anywhere. It's just said that it happens. So it's not good. Like I think the idea, okay, look, the idea regardless is ridiculous, right? That you stole his urn, melted it down, turned it into his necklace. That's ridiculous. It's quite cartoony, but I'm okay with that. I could deal with that if you made a big presentation of them stealing the urn and carrying around the urn for a few weeks, and Undertaker's upset because he doesn't have his urn anymore. And then they do the worst thing that you could ever think of, and they melt it down. They bring it to like a metal worker, and he melts it down and turns it into Kama's necklace. Like that could be, at least, it'd be ridiculous. I'm not saying it's good, but at least I could understand where we're going and why and how we got there. There's nothing about this that I like, except for the fact that Taker's in it. It's just like, I feel really bad because this entire episode of WWF is just God, can we get to the next thing, please? Because there's no part of it that makes me like really, really happy. Like, this is a downer episode. The whole segment gets a D plus for me. The show gets a D for me. It's not a good show. It's just, this is an embarrassing outing, to be honest.
It's not good at all. I think we've both made that quite clear. You've given it a D plus. Let's get right into it. Who won the night? I don't think this is a hard one, Joseph. Who won?
It's got to be Nitro. Even with Nitro's weird middle, the beginning and end alone are way better than everything we watched.
Even with 2 recycled matches, Nitro was better. Yeah. No, Nitro won, obviously. But what did the fans think, Joseph? Who won in the ratings battle?
So the ratings battle, at least for Raw, they got a 2.3.
Not bad. But WCW got a 2.5. So they won, but just barely.
And there you have it.
And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That's it for us. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Monday Night Wars. I am Scott. As always, with me is Joseph Rojas. Good night, everybody.
Bye, guys. Hey everybody, it's Joseph. Did you like this podcast? Well, we hope that you did, and also that you join us every Monday for new episodes. You can listen to us on Spotify, and soon we'll explore other platforms to bring you episodes of the Monday Night Wars. Did you listen to this podcast and think, pretty sure they're wrong about that? Well, let us know. You can email us at mnwpodcast@gmail.com. Again, that's mnwpodcast@gmail.com. And correct anything we messed up. Don't worry, you won't bruise our egos. You can also give us suggestions, follow the show, or even just reach out to us on the following platforms. On Twitter, you can reach us at MON Night Wars Pod. Again, MON Night Wars Pod. And on Instagram and Facebook, you can reach us at Monday Night Wars Podcast. And finally, if you feel like supporting this podcast and also getting bonus content, you can follow us on Patreon at Monday Night Wars Podcast. For the low price of $2 a month, you get every episode of the Monday Night Wars and also every breakdown of every WCW and WWF pay-per-view during this era, with more content to come. Again, and one last time, thank you so much for taking the time to tune in. We'll see you next Monday back here on the Monday Night Wars Podcast.